I'm going to begin by asking, I mean, this is a truly special film. I'm just wondering if you got a sense for that the moment you sort of received the screenplay, if you thought this is something I have to be a part of.
Actually, I was feeling that before I read the screenplay because I was having a rare meeting at my agent's office and a couple of people said, man, you gotta read Moonlight. There's a part for you in there. I didn't even know these people yet. I just signed with the agency and someone else, hey man, you gotta read Moonlight. So there was a buzz about the project before I'd even gotten the script. I got home later that day and received it. Barry Jenkins, who I was already a fan of, I really wanted to work with, and upon reading it, I just had such a reaction to this movie. And even while shooting it, same thing, I'd go back to the hotel and just, honestly, and I'm not that guy, I'd have to shed a few and get ready to go back to work. But it was powerful from before I even read the script to actually reading the script.
You must have still been taken aback by what was achieved in the kind of in post. I mean, the look of it, the feel, the cinematography, everything about it.
Absolutely, but you know, I've been doing this almost 20 years, so you know, you can only be at where you're at. But I've done several projects where they didn't feel special in the moment. You know, you were just focusing on trying to do the best work you could. But this felt special from reading it to shooting it. And then when we finally started seeing it cut together, it just confirmed what we had all felt and experienced. And you go, oh, I'm not crazy. Like this film is a beautiful project. And you just hope it's received and embraced and people go into it open.
And when we sort of first meet the character, I imagine when you first read the screenplay, you hear sort of drug dealer, and that's how we're first kind of introduced to him. Is he's kind of organising that kind of ring. I'm just wondering, then were you even kind of surprised because it sort of subverts expectations in the sense that he's very compassionate. I mean, he's the first person that speaks to Chiron about his sexuality. I mean, that's not something we necessarily expected when we first meet the character. Is that something that you were quite sort of surprised at as well?
I was a little surprised it was in the script. I wasn't surprised that the person existed because that's, at least in my upbringing and the people I've been around, like those are real people. Like I know those people. Not just one guy, like I know those guys. So I was surprised that it made it onto film to some degree. But it doesn't surprise me in that it came from Barry, and I've read some Terrell Alvin McCraney's work before, which is so incredible, and Barry's such an incredible director and artist, and so I'm not totally surprised, but I'm really happy that has made it now into the canon.
I guess that's quite interesting because my perception of America particularly and that sort of culture is based through cinema. So I'm surprised, I guess, because I only know what cinema tells me.
And
so
that's why cinema is so important,
yeah,
because it ends up influencing and informing people as to how it shapes what people think of other people, of whole races. And it's really important for people who are not represented enough to have some authentic representations of who they are, because when you look at other people around the world watching our stories, that we're usually told from this perspective and standpoint of voices who have never lived in those communities. And so therefore there's going to be a slant that does not reflect those real people, and we've never been in the driver's seat in telling our stories. So there's a perception of African Americans that is not our own, that we haven't been, that we are not that we haven't had the opportunity to really shape. And so this film is important because these are people who grew up in these projects, who have gone on to be very successful, but it's an authentic voice, authentic perspective coming from those who lived it and experienced it firsthand.
I mean, your scene's obviously in the opening act. I mean, it must be great in a way when you watch this film. You can enjoy the whole kind of second half of the movie as an audience member would.
Yeah. Yeah, I can. You know, but it takes me, in seeing a film like this, it usually takes me, I have to watch it at least twice, because you end up getting hung up on your own performance stuff that didn't make the cut, stuff that made the cut, and just getting through some of the anxiety of watching, at least for me, watching my own performance. But I've seen the film 3 times now, and I was able to enjoy it the 3rd time. The first 2 times I enjoyed it, but it still stressed me out in a way that reflected how close I was to the project.
I mean, we've got sort of Luke Cage, Free State of Jones and Moonlight, all, well, at least in the UK, they all come sort of coming at roughly the same time. I mean, don't get me wrong, your career's been peppered with excellent roles and performances, but does it feel like a slight breakthrough of late? Does this feel like quite a year for you?
I guess so. I'm learning that it's been a bit of a break. Look, I've always been approaching the work the same way. You know, I've always been hungry. I've always tried to lift these characters off the page and make them really truthful and as deep as possible. But I think in the last year, I think I had a string of parts that gave me a little more space than what I'd been accustomed to. And because the parts in some way have had such an audience and been able to impact in the right way, then somehow that's kind of boomeranged back to me and has opened up some of the opportunities. So some of the things that I've been wanting to do for 20 years are finally starting to happen. So I'm glad, because I don't want to get too gray and old before I get my shot at some, perhaps leading parts.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for your time today. It's been a real pleasure. Thank you.
Great meeting you.
Cheers.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys!
Hey You Guys, huh?
Hey, you guys.
Is that from the Goonies?
It is indeed, yes.
Nice.
Hey, you